Coworker didn't like my friend and I quietly chatting while working made it her problem by user Rin is existing. See edit 3 for a finishing note. I 21F work in a pharmacy as a pharmacy technician along with my friend. We were both chatting about next semester and what classes we were taking while filling medications when my older coworker 41F loudly shouts, "Let's play the quietly game with just you two and see who can go without talking for 25 minutes," very rudely. All of my other coworkers were shocked as our talking was not bothering them and we had no patience at the time. So I decided to comply, but in her rigorous standards. I stopped talking to her. Period. I only respond if talked to first and only if it is about work. I also did not talk to her once clocked out as she complains about fraternizing with higher members of management outside of work hours. She is a lead tech, so she is higher. She hates it. Keeps trying to talk to me, but I only respond with this about work. And move on. She's the only one I do it to. It's fun. This coworker has the streak of being rude and overly harsh and not apologizing. It's nice to give her a taste of her own medicine. Most pharmacies call the people they help patients. It's a policy. You can ask most and they'll agree. Thank you. Edit. I think some of you guys are misinterpreting this. Our pharmacy is a loud one. We talk a lot and so does she. She is a chatterbox just like the rest of us. That's why me not talking to her is pissing her off, even though she's the one who wanted it. Our patients love us talking and joking around and know that we are serious with patient care. Also, a lot of our bad reviews are because of her and another older coworker. She is a hard worker but is rude to both patients and coworkers alike. Edit 2. Y'all are missing the point. This coworker is rude to everyone, not just me. That includes patients and coworkers. She also talks at LOT. And our pharmacy would not have as good of ratings as it does if we weren't a talkative and joyful pharmacy. I was speaking quietly to the point that it shocked my other coworkers when she called me out. Edit 3. I have responded to all I could, but thank you to those who actually understand that this was a last resort for her to be nicer. I genuinely love my job. The people that I see at my job mostly are so amazing. Most of my coworkers are so fun, the patients are kind, interesting, and funny, the pay is great, and so is the scheduling with my classes. I have worked my ass off to try and keep it that way, fun and inviting. I am hoping to have a one-on-one with her soon to try and, for the last time, get her to see reason. I love my job and I don't want the happiness of the others to tank due to her. I really don't understand how people don't know what a loud pharmacy looks like. Is your local one dead or something? Many of my coworkers, rude one included, joke around and talk a ton. I've seen them almost piss themselves from laughing. The patients enjoy our shenanigans. I can come in late? Okay, I'll get disability permission. Last summer, I got a new manager that I reported directly to at work. She had decades of good experience, but none as a manager of people, and it turns out she was awful at it. She was given about a month to learn the ropes before I was passed off from reporting to the director to her. For that meeting, she mentioned that I needed to be on site 3 days a week, clocking in on site at my scheduled time. I had been coming in 1 or 2 times weekly for nearly 18 months, and often while clocking in at home. I also communicated that I had started going through some yet-to-be-diagnosed gut issues that made my mornings especially unpleasant. Those details fell on deaf ears and I was told to come in at your scheduled times or get an ADA exemption. Well bitch, I'll call that bluff. I started the ADA process. Within a matter of weeks, I had documented permission to clock in from home every day at my personal discretion. Plus, a couple months later I was diagnosed with moderate to severe ulcerative colitis. This manager thankfully didn't want to be doing this job and left recently after about 9 months. But I get to keep clocking at home every day until the heat death of the universe thanks to their callous attitude and general indifference to my discomfort. Lucky me. Edit to add a little context to elaborate since I communicated poorly in the title and didn't clarify on the body. We were on a hybrid schedule which I was told by our director a year prior did not in fact require us to be in person even 1 day a week, just on site when necessary. I had been clocking in at home consistently and coming to the site as needed, which had not been an issue with my previous manager, or the director who I was directly reporting to for till the 9 months while they were searching for a replacement. I worded the title poorly. I was not clocking in late, I was simply clocking in remotely and arriving on site later in the day, commuting during till the 20 minutes of what would have typically been lunch or break time. I was still working 8 hours and have been late a single-digit number of times in over 2.5 years in this position. Getting an ADA exemption was more nebulous because my health concern was yet to be diagnosed. This manager was a micromanager with trust issues. I can appreciate that getting an ADA exemption was best for everyone, but they also were giving me absolutely no leeway or understanding without it. I wasn't receiving a random, unspoken exemption before, and they weren't just following policy. They were being a controlling ass. Security starts with us, but begins with you. Not my story, but needed to share. A friend of mine is the GM for a manufacturing facility, and he reports up to the corporate level. The corporate VP of operations was a big stickler about following the rules, especially related to security. This isn't a bad thing, but he would often try to set up chances to catch employees in security violations for write-ups. Things like holding open the exterior door for an employee so the following person didn't have to badge in. My GM friend gave his notice recently, and one of the things the VP demanded was to be added as an admin to all security systems, including the badge/lock system. VP meant to set an expiration date of the GM's account, but accidentally deleted it outright, which also removed any permissions he assigned, which included all current employees. Well, the team showed up the next morning to find that no badges worked. My friend told everyone to clock in as normal using their phone, but wait until the badges worked, because entering the building without an authorized badge went against security rules. Their shift started at 7 a.m., but VP wasn't online until 9 a.m. He freaked out when he saw that there were no machines running, and then had to figure out how to add everyone back to the door badge system. Apparently, the VP isn't a real tech guy, so it was 10 a.m. before everyone was added back. They all sat in their cars and would badge him once the VP sent an email. Couldn't have a day off, fate had my back. In my 20s, I spent a little over 5 years working for an oil and gas well service company. It was a 15 on, 6 off rotation. The first 4 years was at a small shop roughly 7 hours from home, at which point I transferred to a much busier shop that was only a few hours from home. 5 years seems like peanuts in the working world, but in this particular line of work it was a long time. Decent job security as far as oil field work goes, but the pay was marginal at best, so turnover was high. After 5 years I was the most experienced hand in our shop. The new shop was definitely busier and money was way better, and I managed to have my days off matched up with a supervisor whose way of doing things meshed perfectly with me. Everything else about the place, awful. My breaking point was being denied a day off with 2 days' notice to attend a funeral for a good friend who was lost to some health complications after a car accident. I was generally pretty understanding that in our line of work it could be difficult to always balance manpower. But the day I requested off passed with 4 other hands sitting around at the shop doing make-work projects to pass the day. Management couldn't be bothered to take a few minutes to see if they could make things work. It was easier to just say no. To that point in my employment there, I had been extremely flexible with helping out during manpower shortages. I had probably worked in excess of 100 days off and had only ever used 1 sick day. I thought a little reciprocity would have been nice. But I made up my mind I'd fulfill my obligation to work 1 year at the shop as to not have to pay back a $4 transfer bonus I'd received, and then it would be time to move on. I was only a few months off of that 1 year mark, so I started job shopping immediately and quickly set my sights on a mine that we regularly did work for that was close enough to home that I could commute on a daily basis. I made some inquiries with people I knew that were working there, and it seemed right up my alley. Not long after that I updated my resume and sent it in. A few weeks later I'm driving back from a job and get a voicemail from HR at the company I applied to. I called back as soon as I had a spare minute, and they were looking to have me come in for an interview 2 days later. My heart sank knowing that was going to be a struggle. I talked with the HR lady seeing if they had any other dates available, but it was explained to me that they only arrange 1 interview day once they have enough holes to fill in their crews to justify doing orientation with a group of new hires. She said she could put me as first call for the next round, but didn't know when that would be, and she said it would also be fairly short notice. In the end, I agreed to the interview appointment, not knowing how I was going to make it work. I immediately went to the assistant manager to ask for time off as he was looking after dispatching duties that week. I told him something important came up at home that I really need to get dealt with. Without hesitation, he said, "No, we have a full board this week and need you here. Whatever it is, we'll have to wait for your days off." My first thought was that I was just going to call in sick and go to the job interview. The last thing I wanted to do was worry about being fired from a job I no longer want. Then I realized maybe there was another path forward and went to the job board. And there it was, exactly what I needed. A potentially week-long job for the company I was set to interview with, and the job was scheduled to start the next day. And none of the jobs had been assigned to crews yet. I filled my supervisor in with the circumstances and my plan, and he was on board with it. We went to the assistant manager and offered to take that job. He was delighted to have us volunteers. Not many crews cared to be away from home for a week, mainly being confined to a rig shack. Day 1 went smoothly and we were done by early afternoon. I used the supervisor's truck and went home to get some interview-appropriate clothes. Day 2 we were running a bit behind, but we just barely got the job set up and our tools deployed into the well with enough time for me to grab a quick shower and change of clothes before again taking the supervisor's truck over to the administration building for my interview. Got a call the next week with an offer of a start date 2 weeks out. Starting wage was definitely lower than I was making, but they offered clearly defined progression that would have me easily equaling my current income in year 2 and well exceeding it by year 4. Benefits were better and the schedule would give me twice as much time off. Went to give my manager 2 weeks' notice and he asked where I was going and what I'd be making. He was appalled I'd leave for such a low starting wage. He asked what it would take to keep me. I told him when a person takes a pay cut to leave, obviously the ship sailed long ago. TLDR, worked at a company where having a flexible schedule was a one-way street. Couldn't have a day off to interview for a job with a customer we did work for, so I ended up offering to take on a pending job with the customer. Ended up taking the company truck and interviewing while on the clock. Got the job, been there 15 years now. You want a list of every item I do every day? Okay. I have a manager who as well, I want to say what I want to call him. He is a thumbs down kind of guy. He is especially a thumbs down kind of guy towards women who work for him. We re-talking a gross nail beds, pink eye carrying, hit with a hammer and swollen with infection sort of thumb facing down kind of guy. Here I am, one of the maybe 5 women in the department of 40 minus 50 people. Mind you, I have a supervisor I directly report to. The supervisor is always confused when our manager gets onto me about something and is just as surprised as I am. He is never approached first. He encourages me and tells me to keep my chin up. The micromanaging has reached the stage of my manager wanting to receive a list of every single thing I do during the day. My malicious compliance seems insignificant, but oh boy does it make me feel better. I slightly change the subject of every single daily email so they don't group together in his inbox. When he wants to micromanage, I'll have to dig. I bloat the hell out of those emails with useless info. Things like I asked someone a question or reviewed internal policy on size to ensure correctness with next line as I did size in compliance with the policy. I have the line items very vague. Instead of I close the task of this ticket number with issues eyes by doing size, I'll put things like a closed ticket number. Ever since I started this, he hasn't been replying to them as much. I had no idea this would work as well as it does. I am a very detailed person and it is going against the core of my being of sending such a terrible deliverable, but damn does it make me smile. Yes, I am job hunting. Yes, it will be devastating for him to lose me doing the tasks alone that most businesses have an entire team on. Yes, I'm excited to send an email that only says 2-week notice, then take PTOIF for those 2 weeks. Edit, I forgot one. I schedule it to send after I know he leaves the office. Edit, working on a bulleted list of all the amazing tips to make it even better you all keep giving. This is fantastic. I'll have it here so we can all have a united accomplishment in malicious compliance.